So Crimson Desert is right around the corner and safe to say hype is through the roof. I mean, have you seen the new trailer? You can fly around using jetpacks and there are trains as well. Like, how much stuff did they just cram into this thing? And not just that, we finally got a good look at how the game's gonna run on a PS5 Pro. And while there has been a lot of positive buzz around the game, which to be honest is a given with how the game is shaping up to be, there have been some more concerning news about the game, especially since the devs decided to add Denuvo to the game. One more thing that tingled my disappointment sense is how Pearl Abyss sent Digital Foundry a whole-ass PS5 Pro with Crimson Desert installed on it rather than just sending over their review codes for the game. So what's really going on with Crimson Desert? Is the game gonna run like dog's ass on release? Are we walking into another Cyberpunk situation? Or is it gonna blow everyone away? Well, that's exactly what we're gonna talk about today. But first, let's talk about why the Denuvo edition is not actually that big of a deal that people are making it out to be. Now, if you don't know what Denuvo actually is, I too had no idea what it was up until a few days from now when Fentar2 brought it up in the comments of my previous video talking about Crimson Desert. So I did some digging into it. What is Denuvo, how it's implemented, when it's implemented, is it really that bad, and most importantly, what other games have it. And while doing my research, I found out that a whole lot of people still don't know much about Denuvo. One more very interesting thing that I found out was how it was the gamer who broke this news. A week before launch, Crimson Desert's PC version has just added controversial Denuvo DRM. And would you look at that? The same guy who played the game for 6 hours and didn't understand what it was. He complained about pointless things like carrying a raccoon in the inventory and how the game was absurd and immersion breaking, trying to paint the game in a bad light. And as I've mentioned in my previous video, they probably did that because they couldn't find anything objectively bad about the game. But as soon as they saw the Denuvo label, they were like, aha, and just started smashing their keyboards. Denuvo is one of the most controversial pieces of tech in PC gaming. Designed to prevent games from being tampered with or pirated with varying degrees of success, the software is often blamed for performance issues on PC games. Games like Resident Evil Village, Tekken 7, and Devil May Cry 5 have all fallen prey to the issues the DRM causes. Crimson Desert looks set to be one of 2026's biggest games, but there have already been concerns about its performance, particularly on consoles with limited pre-launch footage shown. Now, however, those concerns have moved to PC as on March 12, just a week before launch, developers Pearl Abyss have added Denuvo to the game's Steam version. Now, whether Denuvo is a good or a bad thing, that's a different debate which I'll get into in just a bit, but the thing is, a whole lot of other games have had it. Black Myth Wukong, Hogwarts Legacy, Stellar Blade, and most prominently a lot of Ubisoft games. But the gamer never made a headline out of AC Shadows or Valhalla or any other Ubisoft game implementing Denuvo. In fact, there is one other big game in particular that has it, which they didn't even mention in their article: Resident Evil Requiem. One of the most beloved games this year that sold 5 million copies in just 5 days, becoming the fastest selling game in the franchise's history. That game also has the exact same 5-machine Denuvo implementation, and from what I've seen, it runs just fine on PC. But I guess it's just something that this supposed journalist conveniently forgot to mention, which is kind of weird since he did bring up the performance issues with Resident Evil Village. You know, one could think that he didn't bring up Resident Evil Requiem implementing Denuvo because that kind of ruins his whole argument now, doesn't it? It's almost like these game journalists are trying to attack Crimson Desert for some reason. But never mind, must have been the win. Anyways, the thing is, while there are a lot of PC players who absolutely hate Denuvo DRM for obvious reasons, there are some who don't really care. In fact, from what I could piece together, the newer versions of the DRM don't hurt the performance that much. Like, it might drop the frame rate by 0 to 3%, which is not a significant difference, and Resident Evil Requiem is a great example of that. But anyhow, following the backlash, Pearl Abyss released this statement. The benchmark videos and performance specs we released were all created with the exact same implementation of Denuvo that is in the launch build. This includes performance videos by Digital Foundry. It's important that reviewers and benchmarkers' experience with the game is ultimately representative of the final consumer's experience. Now, obviously, you should take this with a grain of salt, but to be honest, I think that might be the case. Now, I could be wrong, but from what I've heard, the DRM layer is added to the game much later on in the development cycle. In most cases, it's added around the time when the game has gone gold. So it's not like they added Denuvo on the 12th of March. They most likely implemented the DRM well before they started the final polishing phase. And judging by the latest video by Digital Foundry where they cranked everything up to 11, it still ran just fine and took just around 6 gigs of VRAM. Now yes, most of the footage they showed didn't really have much happening on screen, but still, it is impressive to say the least. Not to mention there's literally hours and hours of PC gameplay footage on the internet, so me it seems the game will run pretty solid on PCs. So no Sam, those concerns have not moved to PCs the way you're trying to make it seem. The console performance though is a different story, but more on that in just a bit. Now, in my opinion, adding Denuvo to the game is just plain stupid, and Perlibis shot themselves in the foot with this one. The whole point of Denuvo is to prevent the unauthorized copying, cracking, and piracy of video games, and that's exactly what it does not do. Back in October 2017, crackers were able to bypass Denuvo's protection within hours of a game's release, with notable examples being South Park, The Fractured But Whole, Middle-earth, Shadow of War, Total War Warhammer 2, and FIFA 18 all being cracked on their release dates. In another notable case, Assassin's Creed Origins, which wrapped Denuvo within the security tool VM Protect, as well as Ubisoft's proprietary DRM used for their Uplay distribution software, had its security features bypassed by Italian collective CPY in February 2018, 3 months after the game's release. By 2019, games like Devil May Cry 5, Metro Exodus, Resident Evil 2, Far Cry New Dawn, Football Manager 2019, and Soul Calibur 6 were cracked within their week of release. This is just mind-blowingly embarrassing how bad they are doing what they're supposed to do, and they're still in business. And not just that, with that horrible track record, they still have the audacity to demand hundreds of thousands of dollars just for barely a week of protection. This is just freaking ridiculous, and this company definitely is a parasite of this industry and needs to go. But still, for what it's worth, judging by the performance of Resident Evil 9 and how impressive the PC gameplay looks for Crimson Desert, I think PC players have nothing to really worry about. It's the broadcast console peasants like myself who should be more concerned, because we still have no idea what the game is gonna look like or how it's gonna run on the base PS5 or the Xbox Series X. The only console footage we've seen so far is on the PS5 Pro. Now yes, credit where credit's due, whether it's quality mode or performance mode, it does look great. It's really impressive how the game maintained a solid performance even with so much happening on screen. Like here on the Bug Hill area, there's a swarm of insect NPCs flying around attacking Cliff and other human NPCs. I mean, there's a lot going on here. And while the FPS did drop into the 30s on the performance mode, it's worth mentioning that the game maintained the targeted 30 FPS on the quality mode and 40 FPS on the balance mode. And what's actually crazy is that it was running with the older PSSR version. The final build of the game is expected to run with the upgraded PSSR. So one thing's for sure, this game will run solid on the PS5 Pro while looking great. But what about the base PS5? You know, the console where the vast majority of the people will actually be playing the game. The thing is, the PS5 Pro only makes up around 3% of all the PS5 sales, which is kind of crazy. I mean, I was expecting it to be more like 10%, but damn, 3% is just wild. Now, the reason for that is that the PS5 Pro doesn't offer a massive upgrade like the PS4 Pro did back in the day. So with that in mind, you can probably expect the base PS5 to have somewhat similar performance to the Pro version. There won't likely be a night and day difference in the visuals, but it's the frame rates that I'm more worried about. I played Red Dead Redemption 2 on the base PS4, and while the game looked great and ran pretty well, there were instances where the frame rates dropped quite a lot. Especially in Saint Denis, it felt like the frames dropped well into the 20s, and that was very annoying. And judging from the fact that the performance mode on the PS5 Pro saw a significant dip on the Bug Hill area, I'm kind of worried that the base PS5 might struggle a lot more. And if the frame rates drop below 30, that would be a big problem, because Crimson Desert is a fast-paced and chaotic game. This is not Red Dead 2 where you're just mostly riding a horse and shooting enemies. This game features a lot of large-scale battles, boss fights, visceral, fast-paced combat, and bustling cities with tons of NPCs on screen at once, and FPS drops might make it unplayable in most cases. So not showing base console gameplay is kinda stupid. On X, I asked Will Powers, why haven't we seen any base console footage so close to the release date? You guys have been the most transparent with this game than anyone out there, but this is giving the haters a free excuse to hate. To which Will replied, let them talk. We release specs on all platforms and gameplay on 3 platforms. Let our video team rest. And I was like, huh? Video team rest? I mean, I'm no expert in game development, but all they probably need to do is just fire up the game on any base PS5 lying around the studio, press that little share button on the controller, record like 15 minutes of gameplay, and just upload it to their official Crimson Desert YouTube channel. That's it. So I think Perlibis has shot themselves in the other foot by ignoring the infinitely larger player base on the base consoles. In fact, I would go as far as to say that leave the PS5. They should have actually shared the gameplay for the Xbox Series S, showing the game on the lowest possible setting. That would have made everyone much more confident, because if the game manages to look good on that console, it would definitely look much better on all the other platforms, especially the PS5 Pro, since it already supports the enhanced version of the game. But anyways, I've pre-ordered the game and will be playing it on the base PS5 day 1, since I'm kind of a YouTuber now. I just hope it's not another Cyberpunk situation, because it would really suck ass if I have to refund this game, but we'll find out soon enough. Do let me know in the comments down below if you'll be playing the game on day 1, or have you cancelled your pre-orders. Also let me know if you are actually planning to play this game, what system will you be playing it on. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't done it already. Also use the hype feature so my video gets more exposure and my small channel blows up. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.